that weird, uncomfortable conversation. And you see most of, wealthy people, and I'm not talking about rich people, because I believe there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich people have money, but wealth people have life, right? That's how I believe, right?
Welcome to the Shan and Tam Show. Hello again, Shan and Tam fam. Today, you'll notice that our show looks a little bit different. Unfortunately, at the time of taping, we are under a COVID lockdown. So Shan and I can't be in the same place physically, but we're still connected. And we insist on not letting this stop us at all. We believe that we are serving a purpose in bringing you the content and the information that you are asking for. And so we've decided just to go with the flow. And today we're going to have a special guest that Shan's going to tell you about.
Yes, Tam. So we know that we just celebrated Christmas. We know it was a different Christmas this year, but we know that we're here today and we want to educate you about financial literacy. And we have a very special guest, Alvin Cardoza. He is a licensed mutual fund representative and insurance agent. And he's just eager to speak with us today about financial literacy and how to create a financial plan and goal for ourselves and our families. So let's get into it.
Welcome, Alvin. We're so happy to have you here today. Thank you for joining Shan and Tam on our fam at large.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. So as we start with every guest, we want to know a little bit about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, that's always the fun question to answer. I've just, I guess, a little bit of background. I've been in the financial industry for going on 13 years. And I know, like we were talking before we started, my family is from Jamaica. I'm born in Canada. So I would say this is all I know. This is my home country. Mm-hmm. But like many families, my parents immigrated here to have a better life, right?
Yeah.
And, I considered our family like not rich, not poor, but like right in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. We did good. We had everything we ever needed. We never really struggled and worried about money too much. But unfortunately, nobody was teaching my family about money, so I never learned about money, right? Mm-hmm. So, I pretty much, all I knew was you go to work, you get a paycheck, right? And then you try to live your best life, right? And I think most West Indian families, you learn the value of hard work from a very young age. Even to the point where sometimes you brag about the fact that you have many jobs, right? Right. So that's what I saw growing up. So I kind of followed that same footsteps, but I always had the desire to really do more, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when I was young, I used to go and online when internet first was created, and I used to Google all these athletes and celebrities and wonder how much income they earned and those types of things, because I wanted to feel what it felt like to not have to worry about money at all. Mm-hmm. And it looked from the outside in that they weren't worrying about money, right? I know now with technology and the world we live in now, we know that some of them are worrying about money because they have bad financial habits. Yeah. But I always had that desire to do something for myself. And that's kind of why I went on this journey to become an entrepreneur and be self-employed, right? So I took business in school. I graduated with my diploma and I started working at the bank, and that was my first. It wasn't my dream. I won't lie to you. It wasn't like I grew up and said I wanted to be in the financial industry. Mm-hmm. It kind of just fell in my lap, and a friend of mine introduced me more on the, self-employed side of the financial industry. Mm-hmm. But my first introduction was on the banking side of the financial industry. So I worked at Royal Bank for a little while.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys remember back when the market had crashed in 2008. Yeah. I was an employee at the bank at that time. Oh. And I was okay. Like me financially, I wasn't like I was worried about my job, but there was grown men and women coming into the bank that they would say to me, Alvin, can you refund that NSF charge because I need that money to feed my family, right? And it was a huge eye opener to see that you look from the outside in and you see somebody driving a nice car, a nice house, But every time somebody swiped their bank card, I could see that they're not in the best financial place, right? So it was all about that image. So I wanted to get on the other side of it and really see how I can, I guess, rewrite my story to create a better life and, as we say, generational wealth and restructure that in a better way. So now it's been 13 years and I have a huge passion for what we do, because I say money is not everything, but it's right up there with air.
Right.
You
need it.
You need it to breathe in some ways, right? It's life.
It's to survive.
Right? Yeah. So.
And that's really interesting, Alvin, because lack of financial education can really set you up to either fail or to really succeed in life. Yeah. And I know from your bio that you sent, you spoke about lack of financial education being a generational issue. Are you able to speak to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I've sat down with hundreds of families over the last 12 years. And not all the time, but I'll say most of the time, it's usually finance is a family issue, right? It's not an individual issue. I'm not sure how you guys grew up with your background, but money was always that taboo subject, right? You don't talk about it.
Talk about it.
No, you don't ask somebody how much they're making, because that's offensive, that's rude, right?
Yes.
You ask somebody how much money they have and they don't want to talk about it because they think you're going to steal it from them, or they're embarrassed about what they don't have to, right? But I think just like many conversations, if we start to have these conversations as like a kitchen table conversation over dinner, then it kind of gets rid of that weird, uncomfortable conversation. And you see most of wealthy people, and I'm not talking about rich people, because I believe there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Rich people have money, but wealth people have life, right? That's how I believe, right? But most of those wealthy generational families that we see, like, the Walton family, which is, Walmart and those guys, he created this business, then he passed it on to the kids, and it goes from there because of the mindset of it, not because of here's a check for $1 million.
Right.
Because we keep
legacy. It's a legacy that you're passing on.
Exactly. And it's funny you use that word, Shan, because that's something that my husband is always talking about. He's always talking about what is the legacy that I want to leave for my children.
It's the legacy that you're passing to them.
Right.
And it's the legacy of knowledge.
Yes.
Because the way I look at it, like, if you are here, if you grew up this way and your mindset is up there, if you fall, your norm is up here.
Yes.
So you'll figure out a way to get back up there, right? But if you're here and you see all those stories of people that win the lottery and they end up bankrupt not long after because their norm is down here, so they figure out a way to get right back down to what is normal for them, which is struggling, right?
Interesting. Yes.
So we have to, take the steps necessary to take ownership of our experiences, our knowledge, but you guys, you've heard of a thermostat, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So thermostat is set at a certain temperature, okay? And even if it gets too cold in the house, it'll figure out a way to get back to that temperature. If it gets too warm, it'll figure out a way to get back to that temperature. So I believe we have a thermostat on our finances too, right? And we need to restructure that thermostat if we want to break those generational curses, because we learn what we know now from somebody.
Right.
And we don't talk about these things in the household. It's just save money. My grandma would always say, here, put $2 in a jar or something like that, right? But she didn't tell me to build wealth. She just said, save it. So I saved for the things that I wanted to buy versus the legacy that I wanted to create, right?
Thanks.
So I hope that answers your question, because that's something that I'm really passionate about is for me, at least, is creating that generational wealth for my next generation too. Yeah.
And so what would you say are some of the solutions to actually creating that space across the generations to create this wealth? And
step number one is making a decision. Okay. You probably heard the analogy, crabs in a barrel.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll be the first one to tell you, it was very hard for me to create new habits for myself, because most people around me didn't want to break those habits. right? So even, for example, something as small as your friends, before COVID, we were going out to restaurants and all that, right? And we would go eat dinner, and then if you didn't want to go out because you're trying to save money, you would be shamed for it, right? You're like, oh, you don't come out anymore, you don't do this anymore, right? So then we do it just to keep our friends, but really we have bigger plans and bigger priorities, but we put them on the side to maintain relationships, right? So sometimes we have to let go of our environments and feel the pain of it first to get out of it, right?
Right.
Because along the journey, I know I had some people tell me, oh, you're too serious about this financial thing. You need to have fun. You only live once and all that. And sometimes I fell victim to, the pressure, the peer pressure, if you want to call it.
Right.
Right. But over time, it's like a muscle, you build it, and now it's very easy to say no. Right. But in the beginning, it wasn't so hard. It wasn't so easy. So I guess the first step is making that decision that you actually want it and paint that picture of what it looks like for you. Right. What image, what lifestyle do you want to live? And then step 2 is to put yourself in it, because you can't just break that environment. You have to put yourself in a new one.
Right.
Right. I use the example of going to the gym. I don't know about you guys, but I hate working out. Right. I don't like. Right. I've had many gym memberships in my life, that I've never used. I've had many diet plans and meal plans that fell through, that never worked out. The gyms have made a lot of money off of me. But the times that I've actually had some level of fitness success was when I had somebody that already had some level of it and were willing to allow me to go on that journey with them. Right. So putting ourselves in a new environment that is going to keep us accountable and not feeling too uncomfortable that maybe right now you're not like the people in that environment, but being a student of that environment. Right. Asking the questions, not feeling uncomfortable to ask, because I've also learned that people that have money, most of them, not all of them, are willing to help if you ask the right questions. Right. Some of you guys might have heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks about, my rich dad told me this and my poor dad told me that. Right. So theoretically, we all have that rich person in our lives that we could go to and ask the questions. But sometimes I've had people tell me that, oh, they think they're better than me. Right. So they're already putting a block on the value that they could receive from that person. Instead of appreciating their success and asking them the right questions, we start to say, well, they think they're better than us. So then we shut off what could be the doorway to a better life for ourselves.
Opportunity. Right? Yes.
Yeah. Right.
And those are some really interesting points, Alvin, and the whole fact on your influence and those who you have around you, right? And I always use this analogy that my mentor told me in primary school: friends are like the buttons on an elevator. They can either take you up or down.
That's good.
Right? So the people that you surround yourself with, it really impacts your thinking and what you do. Those are some really crucial points, which leads me to the next question. When you look in this season where people are struggling financially, and especially for a young person, because a lot of people don't really pay much attention to these areas, what would you say to a young person that feels like even retirement saving, like saving for your retirement? They'll probably say, well, I'm young, I don't need to save for retirement. What are some advice that you would give to that person?
So I was young once. We're all young once, right? And we know it. We've all said that at one point. I'm still young. You guys are still young too, right?
You're still young. That's what I was about to say.
I remember, because I started in this industry when I was 22. Right? So I was legit, like, I started my financial journey at 22 years of age. I had $60,000 of student loans, right? My parents told me that I have to go to school, but they didn't tell me that I had to pay for it. So I ended up having to take out student loans to pay, credit cards, whatever I could get to pay for my tuition. And then now I graduate from school, and, I'm thinking, I don't have any money to invest, retirement, like what is retirement, right? I'm not even thinking about retirement. I'm like, let me just enjoy my youth. I'll deal with retirement when it comes. Right. But, when you think about retirement, I personally, and I mean, I'll share this with you guys and the viewers, I've redefined the word retirement for myself. And I don't really talk about retirement. I talk about being financially independent.
Right.
Because we say, what, 65 or whatever the age is, that's retirement. But how many of us know somebody that stopped working before 65, right? Or how many of us know people that are still working beyond 65?
Right.
So retirement is not about our age. It's about when we want to be in a position to do the things that we really want to do versus what we have to do.
Right.
So for young people, I would always say, define the life that you want to have and when you want to have it, right? And start planning towards that versus planning towards the traditional 65 and then you retire. Because as you guys are probably both aware, how many people got laid off from their job this year?
Right.
Right? And forced into retirement, defined as retirement. So being retired just means being independent of having to go to your job that you maybe don't want to go to anymore. And maybe doing the things that you really want to do. Maybe, I know you guys have this YouTube channel which you're creating a massive audience and making a big impact. This is probably one of your passions, right? That you want to do, right? So, or maybe like me, I love music. You know, music is something I'm really passionate about. You know, my girlfriend's in fashion design and that's what she really would love to do. But sometimes we have to strategize what it means to be independent versus trying to run after retirement. Now, also too, as far as young people go, my first savings plan was $25 a month.
Right.
Because it was super small. People made fun of me. What's that?
You started somewhere.
Started somewhere, right? And it wasn't even about the $25 a month. It was about building the habits, right? Like 25 wasn't even making a dent into retirement, but it was creating those habits of thinking about long term. And you know, I had a strategy that I put in place alongside somebody else, and that 25 eventually turned into 50, eventually turned into 100, and turned into 2 and 4, and it just became a norm in my habits now, because I wasn't thinking about, oh, don't have money. Now at the same time, and this is the last point I'll make on this, when you're young, because we were all at a stage where we were blowing money like it was nothing, right? The weekends was what we lived for. Right? And, you know, whether you guys were partying, you know, I was out with my friends on the weekend personally at that time, enjoying TGIF, right? TGIF, SS, right? But I was out and I would spend, whether it was 200, 300, go out for dinner, go out to this event, go out to that event, and your money was earned to spend.
Yes.
Right? So it doesn't mean you have to stop those things. It's just having that balance of thinking about the long term and enjoying now. And even using an example, I'll give you one little mini concept that we teach. You know, would you guys think that people can save at least or spend at least $10 a day on things they don't need?
Absolutely, that's easy.
Right? So that's what?
That's one trip to Tim Hortons.
One trip to Tim Hortons, right? Or Starbucks or whatever it is, right? But that's $10 a day, that's $300 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I invest that money in a balanced type of portfolio over the next 30 years, compounded, that's about $447,000. Oh, wow. Right? Or even $20 a day, that's $600 over the next 30 years. That's about $900,000. So, but see, nobody tells us this when we're young. We don't learn this stuff in school.
Yes.
Right? We don't learn about taxes and, you know, inflation and those are like the life principles that we need to learn, but nobody knows about it to even teach us. The teachers don't even know sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
So it's important for us to start this conversation with our young children, like from a very young age, for them to be able to understand not only the impact of money, because, you know, kids, typically they want what they want. They have no sense as to what it costs. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
But for them to understand too, just how money flows, like, right? In terms of them being able to afford certain things, whether you're going to work for it to get the money to, right? And also for those larger things, the big ticket items, you know, for them to understand that it takes time to be able to acquire those things. And there are even bigger things that you can aim for, right?
Well,
the conversation I think has to start from a very young age.
And I'll tell you just on that note, I don't have kids yet, right? But I have met many people that have attended our classes and stuff, and they take the principles home to their children. And some of the things that, just to give some examples for those that are going to be listening, you know, when kids are getting an allowance or their Christmas gifts that are cash, it's teaching them from the day that they understand what it is, that, okay, you take out of that $50 or that $25, okay, half is going to go here, and then you can go and spend the other half, right? Because sometimes we say, no, I'm going to take it. We don't create those, like, it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
It's like you got to reward, but you also have to know that there's disciplines attached to it as well. So even like I see now with some of, actually one specific client of mine, she started this from her son was very young. And now the son, because when the kids have to spend their own money, right, they start thinking differently about the money, right?
Conversation,
Right? But then now that same client will show, like, she has a little savings account, and she'll show her son, this is how much you have saved, right? And to show, okay, it started off as $1, now it's $5, now it's this, and as they're spending the other half, showing the growth of the other amount. So teaching them what it looks like when money actually grows. Because if they don't see the value of money, you know, if you have a good relationship with your significant other, you invest time in it, right? You teach, you learn what it means to have a good relationship. But we also have to have a good relationship with money too, right? And treating it with respect and love and appreciation for what it is in our lives, right? So yeah.
Okay, so that was amazing, Alvin. Thank you so much for taking the time today just to speak with us, educating ourselves about financial literacy. I know that there were so many different areas that you spoke about. This information will be well received. Tam and I are so appreciative for you taking the time to be with us today. And as we always say, like, subscribe, share this video, share it, hit that notification bell, and Tam and I will be back with you again soon. Take care.
Bye, fam. Thanks for watching the show today, Shan, Tam, fam.
Ensure you hit the subscribe button, like, and share this video.
Send the link to a friend in WhatsApp, Facebook, or even Instagram, fam. And of course, don't miss when we post a new video, so hit that notifications button.
Also, check out the details box for this video for all the links for Shan and Tam's social media and blog.